causing that sequence to come together. This is the same idea, and I'm going to make people angry by suggesting this because it's kind of on the cutting edge of scientific thought here for a moment. Just focusing on the left side of the screen here, we have talking about quantum physics here for a moment. We have the same idea with the way that the atom used to look, and it used to be modeled a century ago, was these particles, linear particles moving around, orbiting the nucleus, the electrons orbiting the nucleus, and you could, again, just like Newton's laws predict, you could predict these sort of like planets orbiting around the nucleus. Well, that didn't really work for physics in order to explain how light behaves, how light interacts, how photons interact with particles in order to create light and in order to interact and create chemical reactions and things. And so they came up with these electron clouds. And these electron clouds represent all of the possible locations of the electron around the nucleus, sort of all superimposed on each other all at the same time. So that instead of having one electron at a specific point, we have sort of all of the electrons at the same time. And sort of this statistical probability that, and so we have now kind of a cloud. And in the same, this is the same idea here, as we have a linear sequence, and then all of a sudden we need to be able to describe what's happening from a higher level. We need to be able to, because now using this model, the quantum model, we can describe the functionality of the atom, of the elements, of the chemical elements, and how they are interacting with other chemical elements. And so this is an interactive description of atomic elements. And so this is also an interactive element here. We're describing the same thing. Well, this quote here from Matsuno and Patone states that quantum information in biology just focuses upon the informational capacity of the molecules. So basically, in biology, in order to create a theory or an idea of how this might work in biology, we need to start from the interactivity itself. We need to think about how these proteins, these folded proteins and biological macromolecules are interacting with each other. Drop the sequence. Who cares about that? We don't care. We're not interested in the sequence anymore. We don't even care. What we need to model is the functionality, just like we've modeled the functionality in quantum mechanics for physics and in intelligence and consciousness studies. We need to be able to model this drop the amino acid sequence and model only the functionality. And these here are taken from two folded proteins, like we saw on the first slide. But he describes them in a way as being springs, bed springs, he gives in his work, he gives this description of sonic acoustic elements, and this is what he's found. This is an actual depiction of what he calls hyperacoustic resonances in proteins and nucleic acids, in the DNA and proteins that he has studied. He has found that they actually vibrate, resonate sonically in a collective way that accounts for the full sequence of DNA, the full sequence of amino acids, taking it into account all at the same time. So, and it creates this pattern of resonance. So this is an audio waveform, sort of, here, and it's being created by this like a spring, you know. It's not that difficult to imagine, really. And so, and just one more similarity here, that's actually kind of what we're talking about with quantum physics, is a resonance. Even though quantum physics is not talking about a mechanical resonance, it is talking about a waveform, frequency type of resonance, and this is also but this is a mechanical resonance that is being described here specifically. Now there are a lot of other ideas that have been developed that are some of them are more controversial and less acceptable and less plausible than others. Sometimes you'll hear, like, you know, way out there stuff like human energy fields and, you know, people telepathy or something like that, and that becomes a problem for science because we don't really know how to study that. It may or may not be real, but we don't know how to study it. So we really need to be able to when we develop these ideas, we need to be able to well, keep an open mind, first of all, and second of all, find something that is workable in a laboratory, that's repeatable. That's so important. And so on the last slide here, we need the question mark from the first slide. This question mark right here, with all of the implications for biology, philosophy, consciousness, and physics itself, the answer is quantum biology of some form. And I have called it in my paper, I don't know if this term actually exists, but I like it because it explains what we're aiming for, at least, is nonlinear molecular bioinformatics. The information, bioinformatics, is talking about the information that's contained in the biomolecules, specifically the DNA, the nucleic acids, but also the proteins, and the information that these things contain. But the bioinformatics as it exists right now as a study exists in the sequence, studying the sequence, and we're in a linear form. We're not interested in linear sequential bioinformatics. We're interested in non-linear, non-sequential bioinformatics. So non-sequential, non-linear molecular bioinformatics. And so I encourage everyone to take a look at some of the other things, ideas that exist, biophotonics, relational biology, and the book Quantum Theoretic Machines was really interesting. It was a difficult read, but the author, you know, at the beginning of every chapter is very good to explain all of the concepts in kind of an easy way to understand before he goes into the math. And gets really technical. I got it from the interlibrary loan at the library, and I really highly suggest it. Quite a lot of the citations, referencing that I did in my essay was from that book, and I highly recommend it. Thank you for listening, and I want to encourage you to read the essay that I've written and enjoy it. Thank you.